The other day, yesterday actually, I went through and I glued up the fuselage and the main chunk of the nose, pulling all the stuff off. Unfortunately, I shot that video from the GoPro head mounted and had the head mount way too high. So all that I got was a bunch of nothing. It was wall and my hands down below the screen. So I'm just going to kind of go over what I did yesterday real quick. And what I want to try and do is we're going to glue. I've got this, so you can see here, I've got the pins in. I took the pins out of this one, but what I did is I used this E6000 glue and put glue in there, and in the crack continued back through here, and then put pins, as you see here. And on this one, I bent it open and put glue in, including through here a little bit where the two fuselage pieces were pulled apart, and put the E6000 glue in there, and then use the pins to help hold the seam together. And then that allows you to just pull the pins out, just so I don't have pins laying everywhere. As you can see, that just allows it to hold it in place while it cures. So one thing I didn't mention in the other one, but I remembered, this wing, or this fuselage in the plane is all EPO foam. And E6000 does tend to, if you kind of look real close, you can see it's a little bit warped. EPO does deform with E6000. However, once the E6000 cures, the foam goes back to being more solid. Using on EPP, you don't have that issue, but with EPO foam, it'll get soft. So if you're going to check to see if it's cured and you kind of push on it, the whole area will be a little gooey or a little soft. So that's another reason I like to let the E6000 rest for almost 24 hours, or at least overnight when using it with EPO. So like I said, I got that and the nose, so the main section there. Part of that, I took this tube out, and we just pulled that out and set it off to the sides. That way we can get access to there. So that's why that's not in here. But that's good to go. And then this chunk is good to go. Just tape from holding the antenna from the receiver in. So yeah, this is now on there nice. I have noticed this has a little bit of a deformity here and some shape. So we'll see how that goes once we get it all glued back together. But also glued these back in. So they're all good now. And what I'm going to try and do is glue this piece onto here, which the one thing I'm going to need to try and do is see if somehow I can push this back up. I might try the hot water trick on this. With EPO, sometimes you can put like boiling water or really, really hot water, or steam will expand the foam back out to where it was molded to. So that might help with getting some of this dent out and straightening that out, because this should sit more like that. We need to fill that gap in. As I mentioned, the foam here has some, like, it's a little warped and things. You can see that it's all wrinkled up because it's actually been warped and damaged. So what I'm going to try and do is a trick with EPO where you can heat it up with either steam, or I'm going to try and do hot water in my garage sink here and see how it does. So basically all you got to do is just get it as hot as you can and try and run it under it and see if it does anything to get it back out to shape. So let's see if we can get one. So this water doesn't seem to be hot enough. It's only gonna, I think, up to like 140 is what I have my water heater set to or something. I got this again. This time I got a kettle I just pulled off the stove. So we'll see if we can get this to straighten out a little bit with boiling water. So definitely straighten out a little bit. Sorry about the likely fogged up here. Definitely try and get a little better light. Straightened it out a little bit, but it did, I probably was a little bit warm. Maybe just under boiling would have been a little bit better. You can see it kind of alligatored it a little bit, but it did bring it out. So straightened out some of the parts that were definitely much straighter now. While I was waiting for the water to boil, I went ahead and glued the crack here on the wing. Got the front, or the top, sorry, bottom and top. So I pulled that apart, made sure I got glue down in there. Used the barbecue skewer again to push it down in there. And then I also went ahead and put that piece back in there. And all I'm doing is using the pins to just hold it straight while it's in there. Sorry about I'm shaking a little bit. Try to do it this way. So while it's gluing, I'm just put those pins in there to help hold it straight a little bit while it glues, and then we'll see about maybe laminating these wings or something to help with that later then. So that's good. We got this piece is glued on and going. I'm going to go ahead and pop back overhead. Now the last thing we got to glue, missing a piece. Found it over there. I left it over at the sink when I was doing the hot water. So the last piece is this piece, which goes right here. You can see we still have a little bit of a gap. I think what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to glue it here in the top corner, and then I'm going to glue this center section. And that way, when that all comes together, once that's glued, and I'll let it cure overnight, then I'm going to try and pull this piece up to it. It seems like it'll be easier than if I try and glue it. Actually, I'm going to glue this first. So I'm going to glue this whole seam here. I'm going to keep glue away from this part though. And then tomorrow, once this is dried up, then I'll pull it all up to here. So we'll go ahead and glue this guy up. So when doing these pins, sometimes you can be a little creative with how to get your angles to get everything so it's holding it together. So you can see like some of those I went through the top. Instead of trying to go through the side, it's short enough distance that I can just go right through. So I'm just going to do that. Now from this side I'm still going to go in on an angle. Whenever you're doing this too, you can kind of, I don't know if you can see this, you got to keep an eye on which angles you're going at things, and at any time, because like here you don't want it to pop through on the side. But even going through the top here, I should have went a little bit deeper, but it'll be fine because that's just like if I went through this way anyways. So I'll just pull it back so I don't catch myself on it, and then we'll carry on with that. Also here I just did I did this one backwards, and what I'm doing is using that pin to hold the foam down into this other piece because it was wanting to stick up. So this end part was wanting to stick up, so I just put the pin in and pushed it down so it would hold the foam together. Again, we're staying away from this, so we're going to leave that go. Try to put a couple pins here on the inside. I think we're pretty good. Again, we're just going to have to wait till tomorrow and see how she comes out. I was just thinking I'm a little bit tempted to glue this on now, so that way when we go to attach the two pieces, I can actually use it to help link the two bottom and top together. But what I'm actually going to do is hold off until I at least glue the bottom section. So when I glue this tomorrow, I'll glue this piece on also. So I believe this is day 3. So we've got this wing that we glued up the other day. You can see I put the pins in there to help kind of keep it straight. So I'll pull these guys out. I'm just going to keep this side here because we're going to use these again. Pulling those out. See the edge. Did a nice job. Pretty nice job of keeping that piece in there and staying decently in line. So we can easily fix that up with some tape. And then we did this crack. We've got all these here. Now it's good to go. So like I said, you can kind of, I don't know if you can see in the camera, but there's definitely just a little bit of a indent there where the EPO kind of melts and then reforms. So wing is good to go now, I think. There's a little bit of deformation down here, but nothing that will be okay. So both wings are now back to, well, the other one's still good, and this one's back to ready to go. So now we've got these two pieces. We'll start with this guy. So I ended up, after I stopped recording, I actually decided I was going to glue this on here, because that way I can use this magnet to actually help hold it to the back, and I can tape over this and things. So I figured that would help in the gluing process. So that's all good. Like I said, I saved this chunk up here. What I'm going to do is glue that together as we glue the rest of it to the fuselage. So we got all the pins out of this one. We'll go ahead and set this to the side. And we're going to pull the pins out of this guy. This looks like it's good and hardened up. Everything's going pretty well so far. feeling pretty good about actually getting this plane back in the air. I will mention that as I'm in this process, I actually popped on my YouTube subscriptions, and GizFPV, who I don't know if it'll be in the video earlier because of video recording issues, but he did a video that made me want to get this back because he put iNav in his Night Radian, and he just posted a video that he went out flying and actually smashed his up pretty equivalent to this. So I'll link that video in the corner. Hopefully he sees this or takes some things he's learned in the past. I mean, I don't know how many EPO or things he's crashed, but hopefully he'll be able to get it back in the air. So like I said, that'll help hold that. Just that right there is going to be a huge help. And that's lining up nice. This is lining up all nice. Looks like I am missing. I think the reason I'm missing a little bit right here and then a pretty good chunk here, I believe that is partially because I think I cut some of that out for the battery bay. When I had enlarged the battery bay, I think this is from me chopping out the battery bay top to be able to fit a thicker 2200 in there. So actually I'm going to clean this up before I glue it back together, but that's definitely what happened here. So I got that cleared out a little better. It's a little cleaner. That actually will help out if I need to slide the battery back in there. So it's a lot easier to do it when you can get the knife right in there without the whole forward fuselage sticking out. So we're good to go ahead and start gluing up. So I'm going to go ahead and start applying some E6000. I think what I'm going to do, since it'll be easier to just handle this part, is I'm going to try and glue this half mostly and then stick it to that half. Trying to figure out what exactly I want to do here because of this gap. But I guess I'm just going to put some down in there and then let it just kind of form, because it seems like they're actually, the foam has seemed to have shrunk down some. I was kind of thinking I would do something like that, but I can't pin it in here or I won't be able to get the pins out. So we'll see as I'm gluing it up. I'm going to put glue in there to start. I'll do that very first, and then we'll go from there and hit the other spots and see how it comes together. The one thing I am going to have to do is make sure that I don't glue this hatch down. That could be fun, slicing that open. So it kind of looks like everything's pretty well, other than this up here. But this part where I'm gluing it back together seems to be pretty in line. So again, I'm feeling pretty good about how this is all going to come out. I'm going to try and sit it. I'm kind of up in the air on whether I think it's better to have it sitting all hanging off or to have it kind of in the middle. It's going to leave it a little bit in the middle so it helps kind of push it together. This is also mostly sitting on the back end, so. But I think that has us all glued back up together. With all the pins removed, we are now pretty much back in business. Obviously, how well you can see on the video, the seams aren't the greatest along here. I think I will probably go back and fill these in a little bit with some hot glue just to try and even it out a little bit. The E6000 will give the foam a nice good bond, but just to try and fill some gaps, I'll use some hot glue. The reason I didn't use hot glue on all of it is I've had issues with hot glue in the hot. Obviously in the summer it'll get a little warm. Usually not enough to really melt it, and it probably wouldn't have been a big deal in this case, but also in the cold, I've had, being in Maryland, we get pretty decent winters sometimes, not this year, and hot glue can debond from cold. So I want to use something else, but like here there's a little gap. Some of that stuff I'll try and fill in. But otherwise it's pretty good. Like I said, now that we're back to just having this tail wobble issue, but this part's good. The nose is good. So yeah, she's looking real good. I'm going to do in the final, wrapping this video up, is go ahead and reassemble all the motor, try and get the LED controller back in there and the receiver back in. So I'm just going to do this. The rest of the video is going to be in fast forward until I might say something at the very end, I guess. But just kind of finishing up the playing it back together. I'm not sure how much of that I'll cut out, or I had cut out before I'm talking, but pretty much got everything back together. This is glued in, so I just put way too much probably, but glue tape in here. I used the foam tack that I had. The foam tack I had, I'm glad I didn't plan on using it for all the other glue ups because it's bad. So yet another downside to buying really expensive, really nice. I do like foam tack. It's great glue. However, it's expensive and I now have half a bottle that's bad. It's in the trash, but I did get some out to try and glue this tube in here. So that should actually be okay. But we got the nose back on. I got to figure out, I got a little bit of flex in the nose here. So I don't know if just having the canopies on there is going to be enough to help with that. I'll figure that out. I actually probably, once I 3D print a battery tray for in here, that might help some. But like I said, the rest, the noses, the glue ups are all pretty good. I still need to fill in, I don't know how well you can see it, but there's actually a pretty good gap right there. And then a good sized gap right there. So I'll hit those up with some hot glue later, not too worried about it. As I thought here, I verified that is where I cut out the battery bay. So that wall wasn't very thick there to start, but the taller battery bay to fit this 2200 in there a little easier is definitely what the issue was. So I'm not worried about that, the way I'll be up against there, and it's not really seeming to cause too much of an issue. So that's good. And then what I can do, oh, we got our LED controller with the receiver underneath it in there, all hooked up. Obviously the wings aren't hooked up yet, but I gotta figure out too where I'm gonna put these antennae exactly, but for right now I'm just kind of dipping them out the side. Let's actually pop them out there. And what we can do, I will grab my radio and just kind of show. So elevator up. Don't know how much really they'll see that, but the elevator's working and the rudder's working. I'll need to center that, but we're good there. The other is the LEDs. I've got them on a switch so I can turn them on, and then that's in the variable position, which I can then rotate. I have this S2 knob to be able to go through, pick all the different patterns. So I can do that while I'm flying. I kind of like this rainbowy one. My daughter likes to watch this, or liked to watch this flying by, so I figured she'll like that one. And then I can also flip it to the other position. Goes to, I believe this is now in the Vario, so I don't know if it's thinking it's being lifted up or what, but it's kind of hard to tell with just the tail lights. But I think that is in the correct. It's in the Vario where it's white means level flight, red and green are for lift or descent. And then the wings would go out in chunks of white for how high you're going. So it's got a Vario built in on the board. I might need to see if... No, he's got foam in under there, so it should be fine. I think it's just... We're not flying, so it's real sensitive just sitting here on the bench. So yeah, everything came out pretty good. I ordered a new canopy. I just $6 from I got it from FliteTest.com. So new canopy should be coming. Like I said, I want to try and do one flight with this kind of stock, other than with the light controller, but with the setup I had before, just to test it out. I've got the high torque servo, so I'm not worried about that. But the rest of everything else, just to see how it flies with the nose and getting the CG and everything. And then after that, I'm going to go ahead and try and install a flight controller and see how things go from there. So just real quick, I forgot the other thing. Motor spins. She's all good to go. So that's going to be it for this video. The next video will hopefully be a remade, and I'll call it, and we'll go from there. So I know this was a bit longer video. If you actually watched through to this point, thank you. I hope maybe somebody learned something from it, or just laughed at my silliness, that things you don't agree with, my boiling water and alligator skinning the fuselage or whatever. I don't care. It's all about getting it back in the air. Like I said, my 2-year-old daughter loves watching this big plane fly because she can actually see it, unlike all my other wings. So it's nice to be able to get it back in the air. So like, subscribe, comment. Let me know if you thought this was good or not. I don't care if you didn't think it was good. So feel free not to leave that. But hope everyone enjoyed it. Have a great day.